Hi, Strong Mom Society. So this is going to be series 2 of training your pelvic floor fascia. I've got 2 props with me today. I've got a chair with a hard surface, and I also have a hand towel that we're going to use in a little bit, but you're going to roll this up into what I call a cannoli, because who doesn't love a cannoli? Where it's going to be a small towel and you're just going to roll it up into a roll like this. So we're not going to start with those, so just gather your supplies and then you can put them off to the side for now. The first thing that we're going to do is tap down from head to toe, trying to get into warming up all of that fascia in our body system. So what I want you to do is start over on your right hip. You're going to come up, down, and around in a nice big circle here. Just go ahead and close your eyes if that feels good. And you're just trying to, tap through the entire abdomen, and then you're going to come up here to your chest and do those same taps around through the top of the body. And then what I want you to do is find your diaphragm. So front of the ribs, bottom of the ribs, work yourself around to the back, into that back space, our main breathing muscle here. So as you're tapping through it, see if you can really expand those ribs. You feel that diaphragm working for you to draw air into the deepest part of your lungs. Take those taps into your lower back, down into around your sacrum, top of the hips, down into your glutes. We're gonna come down the legs, all the way to the feet, insides, outsides, trying to, again, imagine that your whole body, because it is, covered in fascia, and we're just trying to warm up that entire fascial system. And then go ahead and start up on your right arm, up the outside of the arm, down the inside of the arm. Imagine that you're wearing a sleeve. You're just gonna take that sleeve, you're gonna swipe it off, give that arm a really hard shake, shake the right leg so you really feel that hard rebound. And then come to the center, close your eyes for a second, center your weight. That right side of your body should feel a little tingly or just a little different than the left. Go ahead, open your eyes, come up to the left arm, up the outside of the arm, down the inside of the arm. Take that sleeve, swipe it off, give your hard arm a shake, give that left leg a shake, and come back to center, close your eyes. So feel your chest open, your ribs stacked directly on top of your pelvis. Knees aren't locked out, they're a little bit bent. You feel that weight traveling down through the center of both of your feet. And I want you to do a visualization exercise here. I want you to imagine there's a string connecting your right fingertips to your right knee. You're gonna shift your weight over to the left, and I want you to just lift and lower that knee with that imaginary string. So we're trying to not grip or muscle through this movement. You're just feeling like you've got this nice, easy lift that happens from like a marionette from the arm, and one more time on this side, and let it go. We're gonna take it over to the other side, because remember, the pelvic fascia in general, not just pelvic fascia, but fascia loves imagery. It's not like contracting and relaxing a muscle. Your fascia is like a webbing that runs over top of all the muscles. So we have to get to it a little bit differently. So you're feeling that lift and lower here, coming from that string. One more time. Good. We're going to continue with some imagery. I want you to put your hands on your hips. Imagine that your pelvis is a bowl, and that bowl is full of water. And what we're going to do is just slosh that water around in a nice big circle. So, bring to mind that image. If you had a bowl and you were just tilting it like this, how that water moves. And imagine that your pelvis is full of water, and that's the movement or the sensation that you feel. And I want you to take it the other direction. Just taking that water around the front, around the sides, around the back. And then take that pelvis, and I want you to slosh the water forward and back. So you're gonna tuck your tailbone under, flip your tailbone up to the sky. And you can even imagine that pelvis, the water's pouring out the front, and then it pours out the back of the pelvis. It pours out the front, it pours out the back. And take that about 2 more times. And then we are going to come back to center. I want you to just close your eyes one more time here. Turn on that deep diaphragmatic breath. And then what you're going to do is take the dome of your diaphragm with one hand on top, so you're gonna shape it, and then the dome of the pelvic floor mirrors that. So we have these domes that work with one another. As we breathe in, the diaphragm moves down, the pelvic floor lengthens, so you can flatten both of those hands. And then as we breathe out, the pelvic floor lifts and the diaphragm lifts as well. Actually, the dome would be more like this. So we're gonna flatten and then exhale, lift. We're gonna add an S sound to that exhale because I want you to think of that buoyancy in the pelvic floor. So as we exhale, we're just gonna imagine that the pelvic floor is lifting up gently inside of the body. I don't want you to kegel, I want you to stick with the image of it. Inhale, it lengthens, exhale, inhale, lengthen, exhale, and it seems silly, but actually using this motion with your hands does help you get in touch with that pelvic floor a little more. Now I want you to take this motion in the hands and the SH sound and walk yourself around and see if you can stay connected to that feeling of the pelvic floor lengthening and pelvic floor rising as you exhale. And just take this for about 2 more SHs. Great. So I want you to stick with this S breath, and I want you to think of the fascia and the connective tissue and the muscles of the perineal body. So your perineum, it begins right in front of the anus, and it's actually a meeting point for a lot of pelvic floor muscles. So if you visualize that exhale, that SH, I want you to put your mind on that point right in front of the anus, between we've got 3 sphincters in the bottom of our body. So we've got the urethra, the vagina, and then the anus. So it's the space between the vagina and the anus. And as we breathe out, the perineal body just moves up and a little forward. So we inhale, it lengthens down and away. And then as you exhale, it's moving up and forward. And I want you to take that image one more time. It lengthens down and away as we breathe in, and then up and forward as we breathe out. And then I want you to just put a little bounce into your knees, and I want you to imagine that you have a very tiny soft ball laying on that perineal body, and you're just gonna feel that buoyancy as you take this little bounce up and down. So we're just getting in touch with those pelvic floor muscles. This is really good prep for labor and vaginal delivery as well, because we want to feel connected there. We want to feel that softness. We want to have the ability to open and lengthen. And in postpartum, if you've had any kind of pelvic floor trauma, tearing, episiotomy, or just trying to put everything back together again, it's good to use this image to help reconnect to those muscles and this area of our bodies. Good. We're just bobbing here. Then what I want you to do is take your focus down to your feet. The way that we walk, the way that we hold our feet, our weight is centered into our feet. It also affects our pelvic floor. So as we supinate our feet, or roll to the outsides of the feet, and pronate, roll to the insides of our feet, I want you to start to visualize what you think is happening in those pelvic floor muscles. So we've got those pelvic bones. When we pronate our feet, our sitz bones kind of go out and widen. And then as we supinate, those sitz bones move in and together. So I want you to close your eyes. Feel that sensation of sitz bones out and wide, sitz bones in and together. Sitz bones go out and wide as your feet roll in. Sitz bones in and together as your feet roll out. And those pelvic floor muscles, that pelvic fascia, is connected to those bones. So as we pronate in and the sitz bones widen, the pelvic floor lengthens. And then as we supinate, or we go to the outsides of the feet, the pelvic floor takes a little bit of tone. So it lengthens and it tones. And this is why the way that we walk and carry our posture in our feet, if you do pronate or you walk around closer to the insides of your feet versus the outsides, you are affecting the pelvic floor. That has an effect, you know, just not on the whole line and your balance and mechanics and everything. It also affects how those pelvic floor muscles respond to certain movements and support you throughout the day. So take this one more time, in and out. Good. Just give your feet a little bit of a shake here. Then what I want you to do is get in touch with your sacrum. Our sacrum is in the back of the pelvis here, and it is the 5 fused vertebrae at the bottom of our spine. So we've got our lumbar spine that comes down here, then we've got 5 fused vertebrae, and then the tailbone, which hangs off of the bottom of the sacrum. But if you put your hands here and here, imagine that you've got a little bit of a block or a square. And I want you to bend your knees and straighten your knees. So our sacrum goes in and out of what's called nutation and counter nutation. As we bend the sacrum, it's almost like a doggy door. Crazy image. It kind of goes out and back, and then as we stand up, it moves in and under. Sacrum moves out and back, and in and under. Those pelvic floor muscles and that pelvic fascia is connected to the bony points of the sacrum. So as we move out and back, those pelvic floor muscles lengthen. As we stand and that sacrum moves in and under, those pelvic floor muscles that are connected to it tone and get shorter. They lengthen and release, they shorten and tone. Lengthen and release, and shorten and tone. And I want you to take this just a few more times. If you have any kind of pelvic pain, SI joint instability, any kind of pelvic girdle pain at all, thinking about just rebalancing them through these very gentle movements and this imagery will help eliminate a lot of that pain a lot of the time. We're going to take one more bend and straighten here. Then what I want you to do is find what's called your internal obturator. And I think we might have done this in the last video. You're going to find your sits bone on the right side, walk your hands up about 1 inch, and I want you to press into that meaty part of the glute. Then you're going to imagine that you've got a bug underneath that right foot, and you're just going to give it a little swivel on the ground here. So what we're doing is just bringing some mobility, some lubrication, releasing tension in that outside wall of the pelvis on the right. Shake that hand out. We're going to take it on the other side as well. So find your sits bone on the left, walk up about 1 inch, press in there, and just swivel that foot underneath you like you're squishing a bug. And then I want you to visualize pelvic fascia, pelvic floor muscles lining the outside bowl or the outside wall of the bowl of the pelvis on the left, just getting lots of lubrication here. Great, and then shake everything out. Good, we're gonna grab our props. So I want you to grab your chair, grab your cannoli, and I want you to put this on your chair lengthwise or horizontally here. And what you're gonna do is sit down so your sits bones are right on top of that roll. And then I want you to just flip your sits bones forward over it and then back. You're just gonna rock forward and back here. And what we're doing right now is massaging that pelvic floor. And we're also gonna give it a little bit of a workout without having to do a single Kegel. So you're just rolling forward and back. You're feeling how those bones move up and over, back and behind, up and over, back and behind. Remember, pelvic floor muscles are connected to all of these bony points. And then what we're gonna do is take that cannoli and you're gonna flip it so it is long ways. And we're gonna sit our right sits bone right in the center of that log roll there. So you're gonna pop yourself up. And then we're gonna drop the left hips down into the chair and then hike that left hip up. So you're moving on and off of that roll. And this is a little bit of a pelvic floor pull-up because as we lift the hip, we have to engage those pelvic floor muscles. I don't want you to actively Kegel. I want you to just visualize pelvic floor lifts and lowers, lifts and lowers, lifts and lowers. If you have a desk job and you spend a lot of time sitting throughout the day, get yourself a towel and do this a few times a day, especially by the end of the day when you feel yourself kind of slumping down into your seat. Do a few of these pelvic floor pull-ups and see what happens to your posture. It's pretty amazing. We're gonna take one more here. I want you to slip that roll out and I want you to just sit, close your eyes, feel the difference in your pelvic floor halves here. This right half should feel a little flatter or more grounded into the seat. You might even feel like you're sitting up a little bit taller. And then we're gonna switch over to the other side. So you're gonna take that roll, long ways, left sits bone's gonna go right into the center of it. And then we're gonna take those pelvic floor pull-ups on the other side. Lift and lower, and lift and lower. Who knew that working out your pelvic floor could be so easy? Lifting up, you feel that pelvic floor contract and release and lengthen. Contract and tone, release and lengthen. Again, this is all with the imagery. You just feeling that sensation of when the hip comes up, your pelvic floor muscles have to engage a little bit. Trying to stick with that diaphragmatic breath always, so we keep it out of the upper chest. Take 2 more, up and down. And then take that roll out. We're just gonna push that off to the side. We don't need that anymore. And feel how that left side feels a little more even down into the seat. And check out your posture here. Incredible, right? So now we're gonna use that connection that we just put together with the sacrum, the feet, the pelvic floor, and we're gonna stand up and we're gonna sit down. So as we stand, make sure that you're putting your weight right into the center of your feet. You're not pronating or supinating. And we're gonna shift ourselves forward. So just like if you were on that roll, you're gonna feel those sits bones move up and behind you, out and back. Press your weight down into the center of your feet to stand. Feel how your pelvic floor takes some tone as you come up. And then as we sit down, those sacrum, the muscles around the sacrum's gonna go out and back. And you're gonna sit, and pelvic floor is nice and flat into the seat. So exhale, pelvic floor tones. Inhale, have a seat. Exhale, rock your pelvis forward. Feel that weight down into the center of the feet, your pelvic floor tones. Inhale, sit, your pelvic floor lengthens. Take that 2 more times. Exhale, pelvic floor tones. Inhale, it lengthens. And last one, exhale, pelvic floor tones, and pelvic floor lengthens. Good job, you guys. There's gonna be one more video in this series, and I hope if you're finding any kind of relief in pelvic girdle pain or just reconnection to your pelvic floor in general, that you'll continue to do these videos and these series over and over again, because they are extremely helpful for healing, reconnecting, and getting yourself out of pain.